This is Module 8 case study for EDL 853, and I am Tyler Danzel. So, what do we know about this problem? So, first of all, the events took place in the Schuyler K-12 Comprehensive School, which is part of the Fulton School District, which covers a very large rural area. The school and district have a very creative administrative hierarchy. The school and district are part of a cooperative that shares a lot of different services, such as school psychologists and things like that. And the brand new special education teacher in the building is Miss Susan Green. We also know that the third grade teacher in the building is Mrs. Nancy Taylor. Carl Hughes is one of her students. He has an IEP. He's been diagnosed with having a behavior disorder. Recently, he's become more aggressive in Mrs. Taylor's class, and she has asked that he be removed from her classroom. Carl's parents recently divorced, and at the end of the case study, we learned that an IEP meeting was held to discuss a new behavior intervention plan. What I'd like to know is there a principal in the building? Nothing was ever mentioned about a principal. It was mentioned that there was an assistant superintendent in the building, but I haven't heard anything about a principal. So I don't know how that factors in. What was Carl's behavior like last year? How was it handled then? Is there possibly something going on in Mrs. Taylor's classroom specifically that could be causing it? Also, is Carl receiving any outside help, such as therapy or counseling? And is it possible that Mrs. Taylor has, for some reason, exaggerated Carl's actions? Of course, she described the aggressive classroom behavior, also throwing rocks at teachers from the bus. It just seems a little absurd, but I suppose it's possible. So what is the problem? Carl's behavior has become increasingly aggressive, and Mrs. Taylor wants him removed from her classroom. Category 2, our plan of action. First of all, I think we should implement the intervention plan proposed by Ms. Green and Mrs. Willis, who's the special education coordinator for the district. This will keep Carl in Mrs. Taylor's classroom for the time being, but we need to monitor and document his behavior very closely. Carl should begin meeting regularly with the school psychologist or counselor, and I believe Mrs. Green should regularly communicate with Carl's mother to keep abreast of what's going on at home. One idea, and this may be a little bit out there, but assigning a male adult mentor to Carl, preferably obviously somebody in the school. With his parents divorcing, it kind of sounds like maybe his father's not very involved, and it might be good to have a male voice in his life. And if the intervention plan does not work, we would pull Carl out to work exclusively in the work resource room, but with the caveat that there's a plan to eventually integrate him back in to the classroom. Category 3, resolving the issue and promoting success for all the students. So by implementing this intervention plan, we will be able to keep Carl in his regular classroom. This could possibly also help him regulate his own behavior. That plan will help protect the educational experiences of his classmates as well. If Carl is being helped, that'll be a better experience for his classmates. Regular meetings with the school counselor and or psychologist will help Carl manage his own behavior. Also help school personnel better understand what exactly may be going on with him. Regular conversations with Carl's mother will help the school better understand his family life, his home life, and also possibly figure out what is triggering these aggressive behaviors. The mentor will also help, again, bring a positive male influence into his life. And if none of that is working, we will remove him from the regular education classroom. So thoughts, feelings, values, and unresolved issues. So first of all, I'm very sympathetic to what this rural school is trying to do. They have very limited resources. They cover a very large area. And there's the challenging administrative structure. And despite all those challenges, they're doing their best to meet the needs of these students. Also, Carl probably has issues that are going to require professional help and that may be beyond the reach of what the school can do. Obviously, the school should try, but there's probably going to need outside help. Mrs. Taylor is, again, we don't know exactly what's been going on in the classroom, but she doesn't seem very willing to help Carl. Mrs. Lewis, who was the previous special education instructor, if she really just pulled these kids out and gave them a workbook in the detention room, she probably didn't handle these situations properly. So some unresolved issues. Do we have any documentation of Carl's recent behavior? I know we're going off what Mrs. Taylor said, but I think we need to document some of that. Where is the principal or even this assistant superintendent in all this? Again, did Mrs. Lewis, the former special education teacher, did she really just pull these kids out of their classes? And if Carl is removed, what are we going to do to bring him back into the regular education classroom? And then category 5, promoting the success for all students. So component 1, by implementing the behavior intervention plan, we're trying to help curb Carl's aggressive behavior. This, of course, will help Carl, but also his classmates. If we allow Carl to work with the school psychologist or counselor, this is, of course, going to help Carl, but if his behavior improves, it will help his classmates as well. If we remove Carl from the regular education classroom, obviously his classmates are going to benefit from less distractions, but they also may benefit because it may help Mrs. Taylor's attitude. She may be a little bit more with it and willing to help and do a good job in her classroom. And then finally, a mentor. If we do assign a mentor to Carl, this will help Carl, of course, but also possibly help the students who are working under the guidance of that mentor. Component 2, promoting the well-being for students. Again, implementing the behavior intervention plan will help curb Carl's behavior and his classmates. Again, working with the school psychologist will help Carl and his classmates. The regular visits with Carl's mother will give us a better understanding of what's going on in Carl's life. And then removing Carl from the regular education classroom will, of course, help Carl's classmates, but Mrs. Taylor's attitude. Component 3, enhance instructional capacity. So again, we're implementing the behavior intervention plan. Will help curb Carl's behavior and also help Mrs. Taylor in her instruction. If we communicate regularly with Carl's mother, this will improve transparency between the school and his family. And then again, a mentor assigned to Carl could help improve that teacher's instruction. This concludes Module 8. Thank you very much for watching.